I have just spent the past 90 days in Sri Lanka, and in this video I'm going to answer your questions about my time here, my experiences, my favorite places, and I'm also going to talk about the current situation in Sri Lanka with the economic crisis and everything. So let's start right away. So I have the questions in front of me on my laptop here now. The first question is from Kalpana Fernando. What is your favorite food in Sri Lanka? And I have to say the food that I probably will miss the most after leaving Sri Lanka is fresh coconut roti. I absolutely love coconut roti here in Sri Lanka, especially when it's still warm and fresh. Absolutely amazing. And I also think that kiribat, Sri Lankan milk rice, will be among the food that I will definitely miss after leaving the country. But my favorite food experiences overall in Sri Lanka were the 2 times actually where I was able to try homemade Sri Lankan curries. The first time I tried it was when I was invited by a family in a village near Kandy. Maybe you remember that video. I spent a few hours with them in their home and they made an absolutely amazing meal for me. Wow, I still like to think about that meal. That was awesome. And the second time was when I was with Disney and her family in Kogol, where I also was invited to their house, and Disney cooked an amazing meal, a Sri Lankan curry meal. These were my 2 favorite food experiences in Sri Lanka. And yeah, before we continue with the next question, I would also like to ask you guys something. Please let me know in the comment section, what is your favorite memory from all my videos in Sri Lanka? Which video did you enjoy watching the most? Let me know in the comment section. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. And then the next question from Tairinrin. By the way, excuse me if I mispronounce some of the names. What do you think about the people of Sri Lanka? And I really have to say that the people in Sri Lanka are one of my favorite things about Sri Lanka, if you want to say it like that. The people make the country special. Everywhere in Sri Lanka I was welcomed by awesomely welcoming, genuinely friendly, curious people. Even like in the small villages in rural Sri Lanka, when I was touring around like the middle of nowhere, basically off the beaten path, away from the tourist centers, people were awesomely friendly, and 99% of people in Sri Lanka spoke really good English, which really was nice for me as a tourist, made traveling in Sri Lanka more easy because everyone was basically able to communicate in English with me, which really nice. So the people of Sri Lanka really make the country special, welcoming, friendly people. The hospitality in Sri Lanka is absolutely amazing. Alright, then question number 3 from Mahi's World. What were your expectations before visiting Sri Lanka? So the first expectation I had was Sri Lanka is gonna be a chaotic country with many people everywhere, a little bit similar to India. Like I had this expectation in my mind that it's going to be very similar to India, and although I have never been to India, I think I can say now that Sri Lanka is not the same as India, definitely not. I've seen some videos about Sri Lanka and some videos about India, of course, also before I came to Sri Lanka. So I was thinking that, okay, it's going to be similar culture, the street's gonna be chaotic, lots of honking, tuk-tuks everywhere, and the food is gonna be similar. And after 3 months in Sri Lanka now, I can say, first of all, yes, the streets are chaotic. People like to honk in Sri Lanka. There are tuk-tuks everywhere, so these expectations were totally right, I think. But I don't really know why I had this in my head that Sri Lanka is gonna be very similar to India. It was just like, yeah, an expectation that I had, but I really think, although I haven't been to India yet, by the way, I'm really curious to go to India one day, definitely, but I think by now that Sri Lanka is not the same as India, definitely not. They have their own culture here, their own food. It's maybe similar. Let me know in the comment section if you have been to both countries and if you think it's similar, it's totally different, it's the same. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And also an expectation that I had, because I heard it from other people before, or I saw it in other YouTube videos, is that the people are welcoming and friendly towards tourists, towards foreigner. That was also one of the expectations that I had. And that also, as I explained before, was totally met. And then question number 4 from Amutan Vetanayagam. Unforgettable memory / event in Sri Lanka. So let's say what was my favorite memory in Sri Lanka or my favorite thing to do. And I think there are many good memories, definitely. But I think the one memory that is outstanding at the moment is the safari that I did in the Udawalawe National Park. That was one of my favorite things to do in Sri Lanka. And the funny thing is, the video I made there was like one of my less viewed videos in Sri Lanka, but it's personally for me, it's one of my favorite experiences, like seeing wild animals in the national park. We saw wild elephants, crocodiles, peacocks, many colorful birds. So that was a really, really cool thing to do. And then question number 5 from Shaynarli. That is an Instagram question. I also asked you guys on Instagram, not only on YouTube. What is your favorite place in Sri Lanka? And I really have to say that I really enjoyed my time in Jaffna, so in northern Sri Lanka, because it wasn't that touristic. I'm not a big fan of these touristic places where you see more foreign tourists than locals. And Jaffna, I think I was in Jaffna for like a week, and I think the whole time I didn't see another Western tourist. And people there were so genuinely curious, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, there's a foreigner here in Jaffna. So I really, really enjoyed my time in Jaffna. So I think Jaffna might be my favorite place, but I also have to mention the beautiful mountain scenery in central Sri Lanka, which I really, really enjoyed, especially the area around Ella. The views there were stunning. And then Haputala, I remember Haputala, oh my God, that was so beautiful there. So yeah, the mountain scenery in central Sri Lanka and Jaffna. These are my 2 favorite places in Sri Lanka. And then question number 6 from Kiri Gnana. What are some places in Sri Lanka that you really wanted to visit but couldn't get around to checking out during this visit? I really regret not visiting Sigiriya, this huge rock in central Sri Lanka. So that is definitely going to be on my list for the next visit. And I'm also really keen to visit the East Coast, where I haven't been at all this time. So yeah, the East Coast and Sigiriya, and also some more towns in central Sri Lanka, like north central Sri Lanka. I think there are some cool historic towns that many of you recommended in the comment section, but I just didn't have the time now. But yeah, this gives me a reason to come back one day, right? And then number 7, once again, a question from Instagram. I saw the news about the current situation in Sri Lanka. Country with a lot to offer, but it's sad, isn't it? From Nuhas Arifin. And yeah, let's talk about the current situation, because I actually get a lot of questions or comments from you guys about the current situation. So first of all, yes, there are problems here, fuel shortages, power cuts, protests in Colombo especially, and this all has to do with the economic crisis that is about to happen here at the moment, also inflation of the money. I don't really want to talk about too much in detail, because I think as a tourist, as a foreigner, I'm not really in the position to judge the political things that are going on in the country. And to be honest, I also don't really know that much about the politics here in Sri Lanka. And from what I heard is that the government is basically just one family, which I think is not really, it's never a good idea to have all the power concentrated within one family. But would I still say that Sri Lanka is worth visiting at the moment as a tourist? And honestly, I have to say that as a tourist, I didn't felt that much affected. The past weeks, of course, we had power cuts, and I was affected by these power cuts as well. I talked about that in another video before. But then I started to switch to hotels that had a generator. And yes, they did cost a little bit more money, but it was still not like totally overpriced. So it was able to find hotels with a decent price that had a generator. So the power cut problem didn't really exist for me anymore. And trains were running, buses were running. I never had a problem to find a tuk-tuk to drive me around. So although there are fuel shortages, as a tourist, I didn't really felt that affected by it. And yes, prices might went up a little bit. So the tuk-tuks may be charging 500 rupees now instead of 250. But to be honest, as a foreign tourist, especially if you're coming from a Western country, it's still very affordable here. So I still recommend to visit Sri Lanka even in these times. And especially in these times, people need tourists more than before. The restaurants are struggling again, the hotels are struggling again, all the locals that are working in the tourism industry, they had bad years because of COVID anyway, 2 years, and now that people slowly came back, then now there are these current problems. So people need the tourists here. And then question number 8 from Kok Yeng So. Between Thailand, Malaysia and Sri Lanka, may I know which country would you love to revisit the most and why? In case you don't know where this question is coming from, why Thailand and Malaysia, because I stayed in Malaysia and in Thailand before I came to Sri Lanka. And first of all, I will definitely revisit all of them. I really enjoyed my time in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Sri Lanka. So 100% I will revisit them. And Thailand is a special case for me because Bangkok is my favorite city. So I can see myself settling down in Bangkok in the future in a few years. But yeah, we'll also revisit Malaysia again. I had an amazing time in Malaysia and I really, really like Malaysia as well. And I still have some areas in the country where I haven't been. Eastern Malaysia is waiting for me. So definitely we'll go back to Malaysia and to Thailand and also to Sri Lanka one day. Yeah, and that basically leads to question number 9 from Athil Amjad. Will you return to Sri Lanka after the crisis? If so, visit eastern provinces of Sri Lanka like Patikularo, Trincomalee and Ampara. And yeah, like I said before, I will come back to Sri Lanka one day because yeah, I have some places left here that I was not able to visit this time, like the comment here says, the eastern provinces of course, and Sigiriya. So yeah, one day I'll be back. And then question number 10 from Arun Balatambu. Your suggestions for other foreigner places to visit in Sri Lanka other than the usual tourist places. Places which are good, but most tourists won't be going there. And yeah, definitely 100% come to the north of Sri Lanka. If you are a foreigner watching this video and you think about going to Sri Lanka, don't overlook the north. It is a different experience than visiting the beaches in southern Sri Lanka where most tourists end up. In these places, like Valigama, Tongol, Matara, you see probably more, you see more Western tourists than locals. And I didn't really enjoy that fact much. So go to the north, go to Jaffna. You will not see many other foreign tourists. People will be very welcoming to you. And I had an amazing time there, so definitely go to Jaffna. And yeah, if you are interested in more traveling tips about Sri Lanka from me and my recommended places all around Sri Lanka, I'm going to release a Sri Lanka travel guide ebook in 2 days on Monday, which includes all the places I can recommend in Sri Lanka, every hotel I have been to, every restaurant I have been to, cool viewpoints, cool spots, every place that I have visited by myself and that I can really recommend is in the book. There are over 100 Google Maps links included and lots of useful traveling tips based on my experiences here in Sri Lanka and based on my overall experiences of traveling in the past years. And yeah, in case you watch this video at a later point, the book might be already released. If that's the case, then the link will be in the pinned comment as well as in the description down below. And if you watch this video right after release, then yeah, the book will be released on Monday together with my next video, which will be my last video from Sri Lanka. And yeah, if you missed a few videos of my Sri Lanka series, then here you can find a full playlist with every video that I made in Sri Lanka. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, stay positive, and then see you on the next episode. Ciao guys!